Hi, Ann. Welcome to Wednesday. We're going to talk today about people that were murdered. Um, Before I start, I have to make something pretty clear. If somebody is murdered, the person that a person has to be a family member, a close family member, to invite me in to work on a murder case. But the important thing is that you also have to have a law enforcement person there too. I work with the police when I work with families. I just don't come out or talk to you without their involvement. And I used to, but then, well, my psychic, which I'm not even a psychic, said that this is where he's at. And you know what? It was better just to have a law enforcement person in there from the beginning. So this first one is from Abby in Indiana. Hi, Marianne. I hope to gather information about Tom, who has not traveled to the other side after he was murdered. He was murdered by his half brother who has gotten away with it. I need you to speak with Tom for information on his death so I can solve this murder with the state of Florida. I absolutely need outside help with this. It's hard. I live in Indiana, but Tom was killed in Florida. Okay. Um, it would have to be a Florida police person or law enforcement person that contacted me. And you would have to find that person and get them in touch with me. And the whole thing revolves around, how do you know he didn't cross over? That's my question to you. Uh, just because a person is murdered doesn't mean that they don't cross over. And so that would have to be determined also. And, you know, you might be surprised that if a person is murdered, they don't always necessarily know who killed them. They could tell you where they are and what happened, but maybe they never saw the person that killed them, their face. Maybe they don't know who killed them. Okay, this one is from Betty in Canada. I saw and heard you on Coast to Coast, and my mother was recently murdered here in Canada. Her murder remains to be solved. Her murder still hasn't been solved. I think that's what she's trying to say. And I am so worried she did not make it into the light. I've read so many books about souls dying tragically, not crossing over. Is this true? If so, is there a way I could maybe find out? I remember having a discussion about this a month before this happened, and if she died, she must come back and let me know. I'm still waiting, or did I miss it? I hope maybe somehow you can give me some information. Again, just because she was murdered doesn't mean that she did not cross over. And the best way that you're going to know is if she crossed over is if you have a dream about her and if she looks good in the dream. Then that means she is where she's supposed to be. And if that's the case when you dream about her, remember this, you can talk to people in your dreams. You can ask them questions and you can get answers. So that would be one way. Check with friends if you have siblings. If your father is still alive, check with all of them to see if they've had a dream about mom. But keep this in mind. If it has not been at least 6 months, it almost takes always at least 6 months for a person to come into a dream. Sometimes it can take up to 2 years. So that would be the only way. You know, you could call from your house. And did your mother live with you before she died? Did she have her own house? If she lived with you, you could call and I could tell you if there's a person, an earthbound spirit in your house or not. Come on Zoom. Let me see if there's a person in your house or not. But I just can't tell from a letter. Um, and like I said, the most important thing is the dreaming, if they come in a dream. This one is from Joy. And are you able to solve murders if you can see the ghost before the burial or the cemetery? If every ghost stands or attends their own funeral, wouldn't you be able to ask them, the ghost who caused their death? If so, do you ever assist the police at this side of things, doing this kind of thing? Obviously, I just talked about it. Excuse me. Yes, I do work with all law enforcement agencies, and most of the police or law enforcement agencies that I work with do know that the easiest way for me to get information is to talk to them before their final service. And so, yes, that absolutely does happen. But again, even with this question, not everybody knows who killed them. I ran across a girl that worked on the streets. That's what she did, and she had taken a John to a secluded spot to do her thing, and after it was over, he killed her. And I found her in a house, and I got hold of the police, and I talked to the detective that I usually work with in this, and she came out and brought this huge printout of and they were all girls that worked the streets. There must, from 1955, I would think it was, until present. There must have been 400 names on here. She said, "Here, why don't you just keep this, and anytime you run across somebody's name, see if they're on this list, and then you can call me." Well, which is all fine and well, and this girl was on the list as a missing person, and she did know where her body was, and they had found a body, and that's exactly where she said. But obviously, do you think that the man actually gave her his right name? And I've noticed for any of these girls that I run across that the faces blend. They just do their job or their thing and they're done. So just because somebody is killed, again, does not mean they know who did it. This one is from Sue. This is interesting. My name is Sue, and I bought a house in Medina that had been empty for about 2 years prior to my purchase. When I walked in the house, I knew instantly that someone had died here, and there was blood splatter on the subfloor. I won the house in an auction, and when I went to look up the taxes on the property, I learned that I was the nurse who took care of the woman 4 years earlier, and she was murdered in the house that I had just purchased. I believe she turns the lights and fans on in the house. Light fixtures that are brand new stop working. On a recent morning, I woke up to my bedroom fan off, the light on, the living room fan off with the light on, the laundry room light on. That was quite a bit for one night. I later found out that that day it was her daughter's birthday. As I type this, the glass face on a clock that I have over my fireplace is moving, but the clock is standing still. The light and the fan turn on by themselves all the time when I'm sitting watching TV. I believe this is her. She is not threatening, but would like her to move on. I am grateful, as I do feel that she led me to this house. Do you have any insight or tell me what I should do? Okay, it sounds like that the murderer was caught, and so that would not have been a reason for her to stay. And unless the murderer was caught after her final memorial service, then that could be a reason why she has not crossed over. First thing to do is take a blank piece of paper and write on it. You obviously know her name because you know whose house it was. Let's say her name was Mary. Mary, go to, and you said you live in Medina, pick, and there's a number of funeral homes in Medina, pick one that's closest to your house, and tell Mary to go to that funeral home when there is a service going on and use that white light. Now, just put it on one side of the paper. You don't put it where she has to turn it over. Put it on your refrigerator where you used to put your kids' report cards. Leave it on your dining room table. Leave it taped to the bathroom mirror. Somewhere where she's walking through the house, she can see this. And you can also smudge. That will get her to move, but I get the feeling you're not going to want to do that. But definitely, I'm sure that going into the light would be the best thing for her. Being that the house was empty, I'm surprised that she was even there unless she was going to a neighbor's house to get energy, because there wouldn't be any energy there with nobody living there. But I will give you a heads up, either come on Zoom or call me, because she was murdered in the house. I'm going to give you $1 to a donut that there's a portal, because that would certainly be violent enough to do that. This one is from Jerry, and I'm reading your very interesting book, When Ghosts Speak, and I wanted to know if there is any way of communicating with my 24-year-old son who recently killed himself. He had had bad relationships with a girl, but I would like to know what pushed him over the edge and if he is not suffering anymore. Also, me and my wife both dreamt of him, but both were not very good dreams. So that tells me that your son was not in your dreams, that you and your wife were having a dream about him. And that's totally different than him coming into a dream. I would give you the same information that I gave the gal before you. Put your son's name down. Say his name was Bobby. Bobby, go to whatever funeral home you had him laid out at. Tell him to go to Smith's funeral home when there's a service going on, and that he can use the light to go to the light. And then tell him to come in a dream so that you can talk to him and see how he's doing. And that would be my best advice for you. Suicides are hard, and it's easier now because the Catholic Church has changed its mind, and you don't go automatically to hell now when you kill yourself. And you can be buried in a Catholic cemetery where you couldn't before. But still, there are so many people that killed themselves, for years before the church changed, that never crossed over because they were afraid of going to hell. Here they are standing at the foot of their casket, and they're going, gosh, if I go in that light, am I going to hell? Why would they ever go? So try that, see how that works, and it should give you some relief if you can get him to cross over if he hasn't. A few commercials here. On Friday, May 13th, There is a Zoom. There is still some spaces available. The next one will be on Monday, the 23rd. So check that out on my website. Starting a book club is going to be the third Tuesday of every month. And the first one is this Tuesday, or this month, May 17th, over at the Goddess Elite. Information, again, is on my website. And there is still space for the big ghost hunt and talk at the seminary in Madisonburg. It is on June 18th. And there's 2 different times to come, 5 to 8 or 10 to 1 a.m. Got the run of the place. Bring a camera, whatever you want to bring, and see what kind of ghosts you can find there. It should be interesting. And just a heads up, Mercury retrograde starts on the 10th of May and it goes to the 31st of May. So as long as you know it's there, you can be prepared for it. Okay, everybody, have a really good week, and I will talk to you next week, Wednesday. Thanks. Bye-bye.